I want to read a quote that is believed to have come from Alexander the Great that says that I am indebted to my father for living, but to my teacher for living well. Now, we talked about in the last part of our conversation this notion of testing and accountability, that sort of thing. Is testing and accountability connected, or how is it connected to teaching people how to live well and express themselves and that sort of thing? I know we've had this conversation a lot on our show, but how does testing and accountability fit into the model of teaching students how to live well?
The thing of it is, if we talk about instruction, instruction has to be married to assessment and accountability. And if it isn't, then the child goes back to that relationship is destroyed because I don't see that relationship if you're testing me on something you didn't teach me.
Okay, Bernadette, you had an opinion on this. I want to hear what you think about this.
So what I want to say is it's been around, testing has been around. Granted, in today's society, it's more heavily weighted. However, we cannot allow that as our excuse for not propelling our students forward, not preparing them for society, not preparing them for life.
So, Dr. Demon, I got a strong opinion on this thing. I tell you, you know, we've had a lot of shows about this, but it does, you know, I mean, maybe we'll hop on this, but the question we'll tie it into for this conversation is how does that affect teachers? And what it means to be a good teacher. How does the accountability push affect teachers?
That's the difficulty I have with it, because there seems to be a disconnect between testing and learning. Doing well on those tests doesn't necessarily suggest that the students have learned what they were supposed to learn. So it creates some kind of tension in the school district where you have cheating going on, and some people have been reprimanded for doing just that. So I think that we should emphasize learning and we should emphasize assessment. But this idea of testing and rewarding teachers based on test scores, I don't get it.
Well, I think that we do have to know where children are. So, and I think there's a very distinct difference between testing and assessment.
Right.
And I think if we look at it through the lens of assessment, knowing where a child is and measuring their growth toward an end goal, then that's a whole different picture.
Would you suggest or say or agree that there are multiple ways to do that?
Indeed, no doubt.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of testing if it's used properly.
Right.
You know, if we can test our students, or if we can progress monitor our students to see if they're grasping what's being taught to them, and measure them based on the growth, the growth that they make throughout the school year. That's how we know if a teacher did his job, not if they score on the 99th percentile. I mean, that's great if they do. However, they should not be, when a student comes to my class in the fall, they should not be in that same place in the spring.
That makes sense.
Right.
It's
They should show growth.
That's very interesting, because you would assume that teachers would be against accountability in that way.
No.
But it's interesting, the Common Core standards that are out have actually majority support among teachers, which I find to be, I didn't expect that. What I enjoy about teaching at the college level that's different than teaching at the elementary level is that I do feel that we have a little more flexibility in terms of how we approach our curriculum. I also feel that we have the ability to engage students in a different way, in a variety of ways that may not exist when you are having a situation where there's a lot of accountability and that sort of thing. So maybe we just have to figure out how to marry the best of both worlds. In that way.
Because we've gone from rote procedural learning, where we did a lot of memorization, we've got over that, and we've gotten to critical thinking, where you ask a child, you know,
to interpret a painting,
or you know what symmetry is like, and he can tell you that. Those are the kind of things that we should be applauding our teachers for, because there is a difference between what we did in the past in mathematics and what we're doing now. It's
and
a
those
really
are
big
just
difference.
difficult to assess, aren't they?
Absolutely.
The results of critical thinking, that's much more difficult to assess than you know.
But it's a wondrous thing that happens in a child's life as compared to, you know, memorizing something.
We're out of time again. Thank you, guys.